I'm Jose in Horta, and I live in Taylor, Texas, and that's the home of Tidan Hutto. I was very happy when they let the families go. We thought that we had achieved a big victory, and now it's just as bad now with all women. I just think that we need to keep this thing alive because of the facilities that are coming up all over the state and all over the country. Detention is not the solution, and if they can detain individuals like this in medium security prisons, who's next? We need to start thinking about what our legacy will be 30, 40 years from now, when we have to look at this sad chapter in our history of what we did to people who did nothing wrong but tried to make a better life. Immigration is not a crime, or migration is not a crime. Jobs have migrated. Why can't people? And I think that we as immigrants, or we who are children or grandchildren of immigrants, need to realize that the earth has no boundary, that the idea that we can treat people with such indignity and such trauma it's a violation. And anyone who has any type of spiritual, conscious, or moral compass needs to really think about this, and we need to speak out. Sometimes we look at each other and we say that it's just one person, but it started with one person, that Tidan Hutto, and it grew and it grew, and we actually got some things done. Yeah, it was a partial victory, and yeah, we didn't get everything done that we needed to, but it's still a bump. It's still a little victory. And if we can change the concept of Tidan Hutto, then we can do it. We can continue, and we need to continue the struggle. And I really, really appreciate everybody that has come today.
My name is Susana Almanza, and I'm with Poder, and Poder has been involved, along with these Young Scholars for Justice, in trying to close down the detention center. The world was made with no borders, and we should all have the right to travel where we want to. We see corporations, they don't need passports. Corporations can go throughout the world and cause havoc and destruction, pollution, abuse people and workers and communities, and yet people who want to get to know the world and to visit and to earn a living are punished for doing those things. And we think that that is the big injustice, and that this is just another system for incarcerating people of color. When we look at the pipeline from school to prison, and we look at our prison system, this is just another prison system. And again, we can see that the majority of people are people of color. It's just another way, of imprisoning our people and keeping them there. And now, to the point where even innocent children are being detained. And we think that this is an issue, it's a world issue. It's not just an issue that is here in Austin in the United States, but it's a world issue. We're world citizens, and that we should have the right to move just as corporations have a right to move, and that we need to take a stand against injustice no matter where it's at.
I'm Jane Van Craig, and I live on a farm about 17 miles north of the Tidan Hutto facility. I've been trying to shut it down since I first learned about it in 2007. At this particular time, I'm really very discouraged because, as this vivid map shows, we were fighting one, and now we've got 15 major facilities, and that's not counting the jails where immigrants are also detained. But I'm also determined. Maybe I'll spend the rest of my life doing stuff like this, but it's still worthwhile to do.
Many of us realize that we must have international solidarity among working people. Most of the people who are immigrants are here to work, to find a better life for their families. As a number of people have pointed out, it's U.S. policies like NAFTA have destroyed the livelihood of people in other countries. They're trying to go somewhere else, like here, where they might be able to do better. The vast majority of the people in this just a hugely exploding bunch of detention facilities have not committed any crimes at all. There's a real myth that immigrants are committing a bunch of crimes. All kinds of studies, even the Heritage Foundation, have shown that the crime rate among immigrants, the crime rate in immigrant communities is considerably lower than in the population as a whole in the U.S. I am proud to say that this weekend my union at its biennial General Assembly passed a resolution opposing the anti-immigrant laws like Arizona's SB 1070, which are going to get introduced in the Texas legislature this spring coming up. As Jose said, who's next? Under these laws, a whole lot of people, not just immigrants, are going to get affected. If people think, well, it's just those people over there, that's just not true. We've already had instances where U.S. citizens have been deported because some law enforcement agency didn't believe the paperwork that they had with them. And what happens next? Are all of us going to have to carry proof of citizenship all the time, or proof of legal residency? This one guy was carrying his birth certificate around with him. He got deported. I mean, that may right now seem like an extreme case, but we don't know what's going to happen as we move along, and we have to be fighting against this stuff all the time. A lot of times right now it seems pretty defensive and, like Jane said, maybe kind of discouraging. But it'd be worse if we weren't doing this. And at some point, we think we're going to be able to move forward. We have to get more and more people involved, more and more people to realize that this is bad for all of us.
Hi everyone, I'm Matt Gossage. I'm a filmmaker in Austin. I made a short film with Lily Keeber a couple years ago about the Teton Hutto prison, and I'm just glad to see us out here. I know we may feel like we're in the minority, but I really don't think we are. I think this whole system and all these prisons are so isolated and secretive. They're hidden out of plain sight that I really feel like most people are on our side and believe in justice and human rights. And we may be few, but this is the beginning of putting this system into light and sharing this knowledge and showing this map of like what we are paying for. And I think this is just the beginning.
Hi, I'm Sam Wong. I've been living in Austin for a year now, and I started working with TUF a couple of months ago. I've been involved in other prison abolition work in California and in New Haven, Connecticut. And I helped put together this display, and what I found most amazing about this experience is learning that the detention centers that are on display are only a fraction of this larger kind of prison industrial complex in Texas as well as in the nation. And what's even scarier is that these privately owned and operated prisons are becoming increasingly are proliferating across the nation, right? Especially in the southwest border regions, and especially in a lot of working and poor working neighborhoods and communities. And so we see proliferation of prisons and detention centers and local jails in like communities that are not only directly affecting like immigrants or people who cross the borders and live in the US, but slowly it's also pulling in families and mothers and children into the detention centers who have to kind of visit people who are actually in the detention centers. So we have this kind of larger like complex of like of people who kind of come in and out of these facilities. So I'm here actually to out here to support the end of the further construction of detention centers and jails and prisons in general in the U.S., but especially in Texas.
We didn't cross the border crossed us. We didn't cross the border crossed us. We didn't cross the border crossed us.